Well, let's get more on this now. Associate Professor at the Near East South Asia Centre for Security Studies, David B. Des Roches, joins us live from Central Europe. David, thank you very much indeed for your time. First of all, your reaction to Ms. Cheney's intention, it would appear, to run for president, her chances of success, and indeed reaction to her defeat in that primary yesterday.
Well, her intention to run for president is surprised. I mean, she has basically, she's a woman without a party at this point. If she changes parties to the Democrats, she will be without any logical base there. People will applaud her in the Democratic Party. They'll applaud her for going against, a leader in the Republican Party, but that doesn't mean it'll embrace her. Her defeat was expected. It was of a much greater magnitude, I think, than most people expected, but she was not expected to win this. And what's next for her, we're not quite sure. I mean, if she were Chinese, we'd call her a princeling. Her father was, of course, the vice president, but she's never really been too terribly popular in Wyoming. So I think she probably will move on to a national stage in some way, shape, or form.
Well, what do you think it says about where republicanism is right now, that someone like Liz Cheney, who, let's remember, voted with Donald Trump when he was in power 93% of the time, someone who is anti-abortion, someone who would vote for extra military arms and spending, someone who's almost a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. What does it say that voters in Wyoming are prepared to oust her over his claims of election fraud?
Well, there's a couple things to bear in mind here. The first thing is Wyoming is really weird. It's a very small state, and it's very, very Republican. But secondly, there's a long history in United States politics of politicians who focus on national and international issues, as Ms. Cheney has done, to the detriment of local issues, which in Wyoming is mostly land use and issues of, the federal government assuming too much control over land in the eyes of locals. They neglect that issue. And even though they're faded across the world, they fail to win their elections at home. Richard Lugar of Indiana was an international titan, but he just stopped paying attention to Indiana. Cheney was particularly vulnerable for this because she wasn't really from Wyoming. Her father represented it in Texas for 10 years. But recall, she originally tried to unseat a sitting senator in Wyoming, based primarily on her name recognition. She had to withdraw from that candidacy. So her roots there are not too terribly deep. And I think the Trump factor is significant, but the magnitude of the defeat, I think, says more about sort of the shallowness of her support in a state that is more Republican and more Wyoming than Trumpite, although significantly Trumpite.
And do you think that the result in that primary, her defeat, will perhaps embolden Donald Trump to actually come out and say that he is going to run for office once again in 2024? And indeed, do you think that the idea that the election, his previous election, was stolen by Joe Biden, do you think that will become a rallying cry for Republicans?
Well, I think it already is a rallying cry for Republicans. Trump has endorsed candidates in other places that are not as statistically unusual as Wyoming, like Georgia. His candidates got wiped out. I think the Democrats are hoping that Trump will somehow inject himself into the mix prior to the midterms, because he is the polarizing issue that can get the Democratic base out. Right now, the polls are not looking good, although they've taken a slight upturn for the Democrats recently. I think that Trump, if he does intervene in the presidential election prior to the midterms, I think that will be doing the Republican Party a grave disservice. But Trump cares about Trump, so we'll see.
It'll be interesting times ahead. David B. Des Roches, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thanks for coming on the NewsHour.